On today's video, we will be creating and booking our own TNA versus WWE super event. Now, keep in mind, when I think of TNA, I'm thinking at its peak. I'm thinking from the years of 2007 to maybe late 2009. To me, that was when Total Nonstop Action was at its peak. It had a roster of legends, up and coming stars, and a lot of stars that you might recognize here today. And in contrast with that, I look at the WWE's roster during the same period of 2007 to 2009. So this event will be dedicated to about that time period in pro wrestling history. If you guys are interested in another super event that is TNA versus WWE, maybe from a different timeline, you let me know in the comments below. But for today's video, I will be tackling TNA versus WWE from that 2007 and 2009 event. When I was looking through the rosters of both TNA and WWE, it was a lot of dream matches. Some matches that have already transpired, whether it was in TNA or in the WWE. So for me, I was looking at it from a standpoint of what haven't we seen? What haven't we seen in TNA versus WWE? And also, what would make for a compelling match and a compelling story? So a lot of these matches are going to be either first time evers or never been done to this extent. I could not restrict it to just one night, being that a show like WrestleMania has to have two nights, SummerSlam has to have two nights. I said, you know what? How often are we going to be doing a super event, TNA versus WWE? Let's do two nights. So over the span of two nights, I have constructed 13, the magic number 13 matches that pit TNA's legends versus the WWE's. Our opening contest, it is an Ultimate X matchup that will pit three men from NXT, from TNA. I'm going to get it right. Three men from TNA and three men from the WWE. The first three competitors that will be representing Total Nonstop Action will be Jay Lethal, a former X Division champion and a long stalwart of TNA, versus Petey Williams, the Canadian Destroyer. Truly an innovative move that everybody does nowadays, whether it's a Canadian Destroyer, a Mexican Destroyer, it doesn't matter. It's a fantastic move. I love the way it looks. Versus Low Key, also known as Kaval in WWE, also known as Senshi in TNA, versus Gregory Helms, also known as Hurricane Helms, but I'm going specifically with Gregory Helms, the heel version of that character, versus Evan Bourne. If you were in the mid 2000s and you remember Evan Bourne, obviously also known as Matt Sydal, him in this Ultimate X match, I would super be interested in that. But the final name to round it all up in this Ultimate X match, with a bunch of high flyers, I had to include arguably the greatest high flyer of all time, and that's Rey Mysterio. So with the field looking like Jay Lethal, Petey Williams, Low Key, Gregory Helms, Evan Bourne, and Rey Mysterio, high flying action to get the night started, get the fans going, and really get them excited for the night. For me, it's all about pacing. You don't want to tire your fans up, but to start the night off with a high octane matchup like the Ultimate X, I don't think you can go wrong with that. Being that it is a TNA matchup, you would think that people like Petey Williams, like Low Key, like Jay Lethal would have the advantage, but I'm looking for someone that's a little bit more cunning, a little more conniving, someone that is easily kind of kept away in the shadows and sneaks out of victory. While we have guys like Rey Mysterio and Evan Bourne jumping and flying around their opponents, I'm going to go with Gregory Helms to steal the victory and essentially steal the X from TNA. I think this would be a great opportunity to showcase all six individuals, all legends in their own right. But for me, I've always had a soft spot for Hurricane Helms, so when he turned heel as Gregory Helms, I thought we could have done a lot more with him as a character. Of course, he became Gregory Helms, and as a heel, he was a cruiserweight champion. But what would it have been like had he won the X Division title? Just something that I think would have been very interesting. That was our opening contest, our second matchup here on the card. Let's go all out. We had an Ultimate X match to open up the show. Let's keep the good times rolling and let's have a ball. Not just a ball, Monsters Ball. This is basically a hardcore matchup for Total Nonstop Action where they hold captive the competitors for about like 24 hours. Keep them caged. Don't feed them. Don't let them sleep in peace. That way, when the match begins, we are taking on a full on animalistic type of approach when it comes to competitor, completely changing the blueprint of what these stars are capable of doing. And with that being said, yes, with pun intended, I have the blueprint Matt Morgan representing TNA versus the Animal Batista. I think, and as I'm speaking about this, I think that this matchup truly would be special. I think you look at these two competitors, very similar in build, very similar in size. I think that when you have them two in the ring, we never really got to see it in the WWE. Obviously, Batista never faced off in TNA, so we would never see that matchup in general. But I think it would be a spectacular matchup. I'm going to go ahead and pick Batista to go over. Nothing against Matt Morgan, but with the Animal Batista as, arguably one of the biggest stars of the Ruthless Aggression era, how can you not have him go over? No, nothing but love for Matt Morgan, but Batista certainly is the one I would go with. Our third match on the contest, we do have a tag team match. Kind of let the crowd settle in. We just had an amazing Monsters Ball matchup. Then we had an Ultimate X matchup. I'm gonna go ahead and have a tag team matchup here. Kind of calm the crowd a little bit, bring them in. There's a story to this one. Whereas the Monsters Ball matchup was just two forces beating each other, and then the Ultimate X match was an opportunity to have high flying offense. I'm gonna have a tag team matchup with stakes here, not actual championship stakes, but pride. I'm going to have the tag team from TNA, Legends, Beer, Money. We're talking James Storm, Bobby Roode. These guys are looking for a good time and drinking while they are doing it. They're going to be taking on the tag team of Luke Gallows and CM Punk, the Straight Edge Society. Everything that Beer Money represents, this is what the Straight Edge Society detests. I'm also going to have some valets involved. I'm going to have Miss Jackie accompanying Beer Money, and I'm going to have Serena accompany the Straight Edge Society. I was really struggling to see where I could put CM Punk on this card, especially given the time period of 07 to 09. I love CM Punk. You guys know he's my favorite as of right now. Not my favorite of all time. He's my second favorite of all time. But to have him in a story enriched with Beer Money and all the stakes involved, how could I not pull the trigger on this? So I have Beer Money versus the Straight Edge Society, and I'm gonna let Beer Money take this win here. They get the victory. They outsmart CM Punk. They manage to finagle Luke Gallows out of the situation, and unfortunately for the Second City Saint, he eats the pin. And as of right now, it's match 3, and the WWE leads 2-1. Up next, our fourth matchup on the card actually was the last matchup that I had booked because I was just struggling to find out if I wanted this matchup. The individual that helped create Total Nonstop Action, his name is Jeff Jarrett. You guys know him. JEFFJARRETT, Jeff Jarrett. He, along with his father, they helped create TNA Wrestling, and they are, of course, a stalwart of the company. He is a multiple-time world champion in TNA. And I thought, you know what? Jeff Jarrett had a very tumultuous relationship with Mr. McMahon during his time in the WWE, often coming and going to the promotion and leaving the WCW before returning and then leaving again, and it's just on and off again. But you know who has a better relationship with the McMahons? Paul Levesque, Triple H, who would go on to become a major player in the front office of the WWE. So we have two officemen, if you will, Jeff Jarrett versus Triple H in a singles matchup. I think it goes without saying Triple H goes over. I mean, I got no hate for Jeff Jarrett. I'm a fan of his, but Triple H is going to go over cleanly. So we have Triple H defeating Jeff Jarrett. Now it's time to get serious. There are only 3 matches left on night 1. And the third to last matchup here. No stakes, just full-on grabs. Representing Total Nonstop Action, a former WWE legend in his own right, Kurt Angle. If you guys have seen TNA Kurt Angle, he was on another level. Peak Angle truly was at the peak of his powers in TNA. Moonsaults, somersaults, dives, the yelling, you know the meme. Kurt Angle was another monster in TNA. So, in order to face off against Kurt Angle, I wanted someone that had credibility. I wanted someone that is a legend in his own right, but was the total opposite of Kurt Angle at this point. Kurt Angle, balls to the walls. This guy did not care. No limits for Kurt Angle. So we're going to have him face off against someone that decided to limit his personality, that really wanted to build up some walls, only to have them torn down. Chris Jericho, during this time, had a wonderful heel turn that established him as one of the top guys in the business. The way he presented himself with the suits, the mannerisms, the promos really seemed like a main event player for the first time in a long time. It catapulted him to the main event picture, and to this day, it is looked back upon as one of the best periods in his career. Chris Jericho versus Kurt Angle may have already happened in the Attitude Era, even a little bit of the Ruthless Aggression era, but we never got to see this heel Jericho versus peak Kurt Angle. It's a matchup that I would give them 30 minutes. Back and forth technician, technical wrestling, but even a high-flying offense from Kurt Angle that we had not seen in the WWE. Going back and forth, trading the walls of Jericho, the Lion Tamer, the Lion Salt. Then you have Kurt Angle with his patented moonsault, the Angle Slam, the ankle lock. It's a matchup that I'm sure, given the proper amount of time, would have stole the show. It very much would steal night one, but the one that would get the victory. Imagine this. It's a breakdown. They've been going on for at least 25 minutes now, trading blows, but finally, Kurt Angle slips. Chris Jericho catches him in the walls of Jericho, and he's trying to really wrench it in, trying to pull back, allowing Kurt Angle to nearly scratch and claw for the ropes. Kurt Angle's never been put in this position, at least in TNA. Peak Angle is about to submit, and as he's reaching for the bottom rope, Chris Jericho inches and inches and digs deep and pulls him back into the center of the ring. The crowd's now deflated. They're thinking, no, Kurt Angle is going to tap out. Either he's going to tap out or he's going to pass out. But instead, Kurt Angle, like a wild, manic individual that he was back then, somehow manages to kind of flip himself, roll himself through, grabs Chris Jericho's ankle, and immediately starts to wrench on that ankle with the ankle lock. He finally has himself in an upright position, standing over the tortured body of Chris Jericho, and finally he wraps his leg around the legs of Chris Jericho and just lies down and has it torque. And finally, Chris Jericho has no other option but to submit, giving Kurt Angle and TNA the much needed victory. I think it's a matchup that definitely would have surpassed a lot of people's expectations. And as of right now, on the card, it is 3-2 in favor of the WWE. The second to last matchup, match 6 out of 7 for the night 1 event of TNA versus WWE. I was inspired by the NXT event showdown that I refer to as Invasion. They have a Survivor Series like tag team matchup. We're going to do the same thing. 5 men. 5, I was going to say women, but 5 men from TNA, 5 men from the WWE. And it was very fun, kind of drafting teams here. I had this matchup in mind because of who was involved. I feel there's a lot of intersecting storylines that involve these 10 individuals representing total nonstop action. Team captain, Captain Charisma, Christian Cage. I think one of the best stars to have ever made it to TNA, jumping from WWE and solidifying himself as a true main eventer. To this day, I don't think Christian Cage is appreciated enough for his work. His recent work as the Patriarch in AEW is some of his best work, and I think the older he gets, the better he is becoming in terms of his legacy. The longer he goes, it's only positively influencing his legacy. Shout out to Christian Cage leading Team TNA. And on that Team TNA, we have a fellow Canadian, a guy who's been there since essentially day one and is a real TNA original Eric Young. Of course, he was also in NXT as a member of Sanity. But EY has become such a fixture of TNA, still to this day, is a part of the roster. And you think about what he's done in that company, whether it's the X Division, whether it's his tag team with ODB, whether it was winning the World Championship in 2014. Eric Young to me is a hardcore TNA guy. And even though he was in WWE for like a quick cup of coffee, to me he'll always represent total nonstop action. So we have those two individuals on Team TNA. Also joined by them is someone who's a little familiar with Christian Cage, as their time in WWE was a little brief but still there, and that's Rhino, the Man Beast, the former ECW champion, the man from Detroit. And speaking of ECW, rounding out Team TNA, Christian Cage, Eric Young, Rhino, Team 3D. Brother Devon and Brother Ray, also Bully Ray, or Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, however you know them. Team 3D rounds out the group here on Team TNA. Scheduled to go up against 5 of the WWE's men and their team captain, Edge. I couldn't resist it. Edge and Christian, this time on opposite sides. Edge representing the WWE, who was a lifer at that point. Of course, he left to go to AEW, but this is before that. In our fictional world, Edge is the team captain. And on his side, I actually have Rob Van Dam, who, yes, is an ECW original, but given the history between RVD, and on the flip side, of course, the Dudleys, but Rhino, I wanted someone to combat against Rhino, and Rhino has a history with RVD, as he was the individual that had injured Rob Van Dam when he was the TV champion, and had to relinquish the championship due to injury, where he held the championship for like 800 days. That's mind-blowing back then. Had a rivalry, had a real intense rivalry between the two. Let's revisit it here on this night. So we have Edge and Rob Van Dam. I also have R-Truth. R-Truth might seem like an outlier. Like, wow, why does he have R-Truth here? R-Truth in the WWE is one of the most compelling and entertaining stars that Vince McMahon has ever had on his roster. But before that, he's a former NWA World Champion in total nonstop action as Ron Killings. And I think, how fun would it be to have R-Truth on Team WWE saying like, hey, I was your world champion, and now I'm over here making the big money in New York and representing the WWE. I've surpassed this TNA roster. I'm in the WWE. And I think R-Truth would really shine as he reverts back to his Ron Killings persona. So again, Edge, Rob Van Dam, Ron the Truth Killings, and I had Team 3D on TNA. So you know I have to go with Matt and Jeff, the Hardys, on Team WWE. Our fields are set. Team TNA, captained by Christian Cage, with Rhino, Eric Young, and the Dudleys, versus Edge, RVD. We also have Ron the Truth Killings and the Hardy Boys. I am really excited to see this matchup. I'm acting like it's real. It's fantasy warfare, but this is how the eliminations would go. We're going to start the match off here. R-Truth takes charge. Naturally, he's still in his comedic role. He's still trying to be funny. He says, you know what, guys? I got this. I was a world champion. I'll take care of this. He goes one-on-one with Brother Ray. Bubba Ray, if you will. Who's no nonsense. This guy's repping TNA. They have a little bit of back and forth. R-Truth gets good offense, demonstrating why he was a world champion for some point. But then Brother Devon gets involved when the referee is not looking, kind of cheap shots him in a way, and that leads to a quick elimination of R-Truth. I love R-Truth, don't get me wrong, but we still have to also keep in mind, with a little bit of realism, he was a comedy character at this point. I'm going to have him in that matchup for maybe as at most 2 to 3 minutes. Again, nothing but love for Truth, but I'm trying to also be realistic in this approach. After a little bit of back and forth, we have, tags coming in and out. We see guys like Aaron Young get in there. I have RVD jumping in there essentially. And then RVD, who is getting their hands on Eric Young. Little friendly banter between the two good baby faces. But Edge wants in. He wants to show RVD, stop lollygagging. Stop messing with the enemy. He gets in, tag, spears Eric Young. Bye-bye EY. Now that we have R-Truth and Eric Young out of the picture, it's 4-on-4. We have a little bit of a back and forth. Edge is now facing off against the Rhino. They have a history there. WrestleMania 17, Rhino helped out with, helping Edge and Christian win the ladder match. They have a back and forth there. Edge gets tagged out. We get a little bit of Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, if you will. They can't contain him. Nobody can take down the Rhino until finally Jeff Hardy tags in Rob Van Dam. These guys go back. I talked about the history in ECW where Rob Van Dam was the long tenured television champion that would have to relinquish that title because of an injury sustained by an attack by Rhino. We have a good solid back and forth between these two. Rhino kind of starts to teeter, kind of starts to lose his momentum against RVD. RVD hits the 5-star frog splash to no avail. Rhino powers out, gores Rob Van Dam, and eliminates him 1, 2, 3. RVD can still not get the better of Rhino. So now let's reset. On Team TNA, we have Christian Cage, Rhino, and both members of Team 3D. In the WWE, we have Edge, we have both the Hardys. TNA has the advantage. So now, Rhino, building up steam here, dispatches of RVD. The Hardys are trying to get at him. They still can't. Edge, again, blind tags Matt Hardy, saying, "What are you doing?" Lock in. We see a little bit of tension between Matt Hardy and Edge. They have a personal history as well. Check out their feud in 2005 over Lita. Edge goes back and forth with Rhino. Rhino gets the upper hand, sends Edge out of the mat. Keep in mind, Edge is the legal man. The Hardys now battling off Team 3D. Rhino battles off the Hardys. When he's not looking, Edge sneaks back into the ring, surprises him with his own spear, pins Rhino 1, 2, 3. Rhino is eliminated by the Rated R superstar Edge. Team 3D comes into the ring. Obviously, they see they're losing their men. Rhino's out of the picture. Team 3D now getting the upper hand on Edge. Edge immediately can't take the heat, tags out, brings in Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy, with the help of Matt Hardy against the Dudleys, they have a little moment there reminiscent of their tables matchup at Royal Rumble 2000. Shout out to Bound for Glory, which is just around the corner. We have Jeff Hardy finally hitting a Swanton bomb. Brother Devon eliminated from the matchup. Following that, Jeff Hardy, after he hits this move, after he hits the Swanton, he gets the pin. Christian Cage sneaks back into the ring, hits a kill switch. 1, 2, 3. Jeff quickly eliminated. So now we are down to Brother Ray, Matt Hardy, Edge, Christian Cage on TNA. So now it's a full-on 2-on-2. Brother Ray is in the matchup. Matt Hardy comes in following Jeff's elimination. And Matt Hardy and then Brother Ray, they have a moment there. Long story short, Bubba Ray gets eliminated by Matt Hardy. So now we're down to Matt and Edge versus Christian Cage. There's a moment in the ring. Christian looks at him. Christian looks over to his best friend, brother, depending on what story you're looking at. Edge, like, you're siding with him? After everything that you guys have been through, you're going to side with him over me. Christian trying to manipulate Edge, trying to get in his head. And Matt Hardy looks at him tense because they still had that scuffle early on. And he brushes it off. He says, "I have my problems with you, Edge." But he doesn't say Edge. He says, "I have my problems with you, Adam. But let's take care of him first." And as Matt Hardy takes the first couple of steps towards Christian, Edge swings him around, hits him with the execution, a version of the DDT, and leaves him for Christian Cage to pin. And Cage pins Matt Hardy with the help of Edge. Now it's 1-on-1. Christian Cage versus Edge. The two captains. I would not have it any other way. These guys go on for like another 5 minutes back and forth. They know each other so well. They're close, like a lot of brothers, essentially. But in the end, Edge gets the victory over Christian Cage, gets the victory for Team WWE in a matchup that probably takes place, maybe 21 to 25 minutes. I think it's a pretty decent length of a matchup here. And so as of right now, 6 matches are on the card, and the WWE is leading, 4-2 at this point. TNA is starting to slip, so they need to come back strong, and we'll see how strong they can come back in this main event. So finally, the WWE has a 4-2 lead on TNA, and in the main event, 2 individuals that I think perfectly epitomize their respective companies. But 2 individuals who actually go back, way back. We're talking the year 99, 2000, UPW out in California. These 2 up-and-coming stars wanted to break into the business and see what they could achieve. And over the course of these last 25 years, have become history makers, record breakers, some of them considered even the greatest of all time. Representing TNA, I have Samoa Joe taking on John Cena. A matchup that we have never seen. A matchup that I would love to see. I know a lot of people probably would have had AJ Styles versus John Cena in this position, but we've seen that match. And I love that matchup. And I'm going to love Crown Jewel when those two go head to head. But Samoa Joe versus John Cena is a matchup that I would have loved to have seen. John Cena has had great matches against giants in the past. Umaga. He's also had matches against the Great Khali. Not his best match, but it was the Great Khali's best match in my opinion. Also matches against the Big Show. But for the booking purposes of this show, I have this matchup kind of reminiscent of the Last Man Standing matchup between Umaga and John Cena. Just an overpowering force Samoan onto John Cena. A lot of back and forth. I have a lot of color in this matchup. But being that this is 2007 to 2009 John Cena, he's going over. He's going over. Love Samoa Joe. But I think John Cena takes the win 5-2 in favor of the WWE. And that brings us to night 2. Night 2, we're going to open up Last Man Standing. Typically, this individual would have been in Monsters Ball. But I feel like that would have been a little bit of favoritism, a little bit of home field advantage, and let's spice it up a bit. Last Man Standing, Abyss versus Kane. I mean, this is a layup. This matchup has to happen. Two parallel universes saw an individual like Abyss and Kane. I think these two are tailor-made to have a brawl. Would it be a great matchup? That is up for a debate. However, I think the promos and the lead-up to it would be fantastic. Imagine seeing Kane, the 2004 version. I know I'm booking 2008, 2009. But still, he can kind of revert back to that more monstrous version of his character. Against Abyss, a tortured soul like Joseph Park, I would love to see this matchup between these two. I think it would be a back and forth event. Again, opening the night hot, getting the crowd invested, maybe a little color in the first matchup here. But I think I'm going to go with Abyss to take the victory. Kane's a legend. He's going to be fine. But Abyss takes this victory. And it gives TNA a 3-5 record against the WWE. The second match of night 2 will have Christopher Daniels, the Fallen Angel, against Randy Orton. Randy Orton at this point was a monster of a heel, pulling dastardly deeds unlike no one else, punting the boss, RKOing the boss's daughter, and planting a good old smooch on her while her husband is watching. Randy Orton versus Christopher Daniels has potential to be a great matchup, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm booking this matchup for the finish. I want to see Christopher Daniels hit the prettiest moonsault ever. And mid-air, I want Randy to pop up and give him that RKO in mid-air. I know he can do it. Especially at this point in time, he's hitting that. Randy Orton hits it out of nowhere, as Randy only does. Gets the victory. Randy goes over. By my count, what is that? That's 6-3 in favor of the WWE. Still a heavy lead for the WWE. TNA needs to make a run here. And speaking of runs, there has been no company that has been on such a run in terms of women's wrestling like the Knockouts division. So like the men had a 5-on-5 elimination matchup, the women have a 5-on-5 elimination matchup. I think it was very difficult to not have a singles match for the women. I wanted to, but I thought there's a story to be told here for a 5-on-5 and having the locker rooms go up against one another. Representing TNA, I have the beautiful people, Velvet Sky, Angelina Love, who will also be going into the Hall of Fame this year for TNA, accompanied by ODB, Gail Kim, and Awesome Kong. 5 influential women on the roster, 5 legends in their own right, representing total nonstop action. They're going to be going up against the WWE Divas. Keep in mind, they were still Divas in this time period. So it's Knockouts versus Divas. And then Team WWE. Lay Cool, Michelle McCool, Layla, who a lot of people look at as a carbon copy of the beautiful people. That debate is up there. I think the similarities are there. But Lay Cool also teaming up with Kelly Kelly, who kind of counter sets against ODB, as those two are like polar opposites. I would love to see that interaction. And finally, the two final members on the team would be the Divas of Doom, Natalia and Beth Phoenix. I love both teams. It was very fun being able to construct these teams. So again, for a refresher, Team TNA, Team Knockouts, the Beautiful Peoples, Velvet Sky, and Angelina Love teaming up with ODB, Awesome Kong, and Gail Kim versus Lay Cool, Kelly Kelly, and Natalia and Beth Phoenix. We start the match up here. Layla is in the ring, getting hyped up by Michelle McCool, saying, "We got this, right?" They're confident. There's no reason for them not to be confident. They're WWE superstars. If anybody's a carbon copy of anybody, the Beautiful People are a carbon copy of Lay. And just as she's in the middle of talking with Michelle McCool, we have Velvet Sky come in, give a good old roll up, pins Layla. She's gone in seconds. Kind of similar to the R-Truth thing, but in a lot less time. Velvet Sky successfully eliminates Layla. Immediately, she goes back to her corner. She celebrates. Angelina Love and her, they're laughing. They're having a good time. Michelle McCool comes through. Big boot, knocks out Angelina Love, knocks out Velvet Sky, pins her. We're even. Velvet Sky and Layla are gone. Real quick, we're establishing, boom, these women are not playing this matchup. At any moment, someone could be eliminated. The stakes are high because everyone's been talking. They've been saying how the TNA locker room has better women. The Knockouts division is better wrestlers than the WWE. They have a lot at stake here. They have to prove their ground. They have to prove that, hey, just because you guys are knockouts doesn't mean you're not as tough as us. And the WWE Divas are here to play. Layla and Velvet Sky immediately gone. Casualties of war. So they're gone. We have a little bit of a moment here. Michelle McCool in the ring has a face off against Gail Kim, who was there for a cup of coffee in the WWE. They have a little bit of a showcase there, showing off their athleticism and their wrestling ability. But Gail Kim gets immediately blind tag Awesome Kong. Those two have a history. Awesome Kong and Gail Kim are meant to do battle for all of eternity. And she looks over at Gail Kim and basically gives her this look of, get out. Get out of this ring. Gail Kim gets out of the ring reluctantly. Says, okay, fine. Okay. Awesome Kong gets in the ring, and Michelle McCool immediately, I don't want no part of this. Kind of backs off, tags out, gets Kelly Kelly in the ring. Kelly Kelly looks like Awesome Kong and is like shaking in her boots. You know what I mean? Like she's like gulping at the sight of Awesome Kong. But you know what? With a smile on her face, reluctantly, she tries to fight off Awesome Kong. Awesome Kong immediately knocks off Kelly Kelly. She doesn't eliminate her just yet, but like dispatches her to the point where now Natalia, Beth, the breakdown happens. Everyone comes out of the ring. They're fighting in the ring, out of the ring. Everything dispels. Kelly Kelly and Awesome Kong are now left in the ring alone, except Awesome Kong is still kind of fighting off Beth and Natalia. So here comes Michelle McCool tagging herself in, trying to be the hero and eliminate Awesome Kong, but Awesome Kong isn't playing those games. She eliminates Michelle McCool. So Michelle McCool is already eliminated. Kelly Kelly is the next person up, and Awesome Kong says, you know what, I've had enough. I'm going to take a break. And she tags ODB. ODB picks up the scraps and looks at her and says, okay. Pins Kelly Kelly after a little bit there. Kelly Kelly's eliminated. So now, again, to regroup, Team TNA has Angelina Love, Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, and ODB. Team WWE, they have the Divas of Doom at this point. Natalia and Beth Phoenix are the only ones left. So now it's a 4-on-2 affair. And now it's like, okay, these two look at each other and they're thinking, okay, hey, if I'm going to be left alone to do battle with one person, I'm glad it's you. Natalia and Beth Phoenix tying up their boots, clench their jaws, and they're going for it. We have Angelina Love versus Beth Phoenix early on. These two are doing battle. We've never seen it, never seen it before, never will see it again. Beth Phoenix eliminates Angelina Love. After that, ODB gets in the ring. Natty at some point tags in. They have a square off. Natty makes ODB tap out. So now it's 2-on-2. Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, who have beef, Natalya and Beth Phoenix, who are best friends. We got a good showdown here. Give these ladies like the last 10 minutes of the matchup here. But at some point, Phoenix ends up getting overpowered by Awesome Kong. It's just too much. Awesome Kong takes out Beth Phoenix. So now it's a 2-on-1 with Kong and Kim versus Natalya. I would love to see Natalya versus Gail Kim. Fun fact for people watching the stream right now, I would have had Gail Kim versus Natalya 1-on-1, but it was a little bit of a struggle to figure out the rest of the participants here in this matchup. So I said, let's put them in here in a feature spot. So Natalya and Kim, they go at it. Awesome Kong wants back in, but Kim's like, no, you had your moment. And so Kim beats Natalya, pins her, gets the win for Team TNA, and looks over at Awesome Kong like, we're not finished. I know we were partners here today. I got the victory for us. We're not finished. Team TNA gets the victory here, trying to regain a little bit of momentum. They're still falling behind, but they're still trying to climb out of this hole. 3 matches are left in night 2. This next matchup, could be a main event on any night. But I just couldn't see Cena and Samoa Joe not being a main event. And obviously night 2's main event we'll get to. This, to me, was really the second matchup. The second matchup I had booked on the show. Nobody represented total nonstop action more than AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. Won the X Division Championship, the tag titles, the world titles. This guy is Mr. TNA. And he's been the most phenomenal wrestler in the business. But he needs to know. He needs to know just how phenomenal he is. He needs to know if he is that damn good. So it's him versus Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, widely regarded as one of the greatest of all time. Widely regarded by not only his peers, by critics, by fans. People outside of the business, I think, would even mention him as a member of one of the GOATs. Shawn Michaels and AJ Styles, again, similar to Jericho and Kurt Angle, give them 30 minutes. You give them enough time, they'll have the match of the year. Shawn Michaels, at a point in his career, has really established himself as a worker. Like a worker's worker, to the point where he doesn't have to win and lose. It doesn't matter. He's going to put on a great show. And a great show they put on. A phenomenal show-stopping match between 2 of the all-time greatest. And I got AJ going over. I think Shawn Michaels would have no problem putting over AJ Styles. And what an honor it would be for the phenomenal one to beat Shawn on this stage. AJ gets a convincing victory over Shawn Michaels. And again, inches closer and closer to, winning the night, essentially. There's only 2 matches left. In the penultimate matchup, the second to last matchup, I got a ladder match. My favorite stipulation. Not just a ladder match, though. 4 teams involved. Representing TNA, LAX, Homicide, and Hernandez. Versus the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. Versus Carlito and Primo, the Colognes, who, again, popular tag team during this time period. Keep in mind, we're running from 2007 to 2009. And to round out the participants, I got Paul London and Brian Kendrick, an underrated tag team. If you guys have seen Paul London and Brian Kendrick during this time period, man, think of Fraxium, but back in the day. I would love to see a Fraxium versus London and Kendrick matchup, but without saying too much, because it's a ladder match, you guys already know the typical spots that transpire during this matchup. I got Paul London and Brian Kendrick going over. They win this matchup. So it's now 7-5. Mathematically, TNA has lost the event. There's no point of them, even doing this last matchup. They've already lost. 7-5 is the record, with London and Kendrick winning this ladder match. But now we have the main event. The very main event, in which this whole stream is dedicated to. A dream match of dream matches. There are 2 individuals that are absent from this entire card. Glaringly apparent, I think. They are representing their respective companies. They have come to a point where they are legends in this business, not only for fans within, but of mainstream audiences that may not even be as diehard fans as you and I. Representing TNA, the icon, Sting, representing the WWE, the Phenom, the Undertaker. A match we have never seen, a match we will never see, one on one, for the first time and the last time. Two iconic figures in pro wrestling. We just had a ladder match that, of course, is going to get the people going, but I think we can calm them down by the time we get to this main event because the Undertaker has a long entrance. Sting's aura is very ominous. They finally get into the ring. The lights come on because Taker had just had his entrance. They step up to one another and they look at each other, Rock Hogan style. They look at each other, they look to the side, they look at each other, they look to the other side. And they realize they're in a moment in time. Never before, never again. Taker versus Sting. This is everything that I would want. Taker and Sting shake hands because they recognize how significant this moment is. Taker and Sting, they start to exchange blows. They start punching each other, one after the other, one after the other, trying to get the upper hand. They realize no one's backing down until finally they both look at each other and then they run off to the ring, run off to the ropes, bounce. Sting hits that shoulder bump on Taker, doesn't move. Taker moves, hits that shoulder bump on Sting, doesn't move. Until finally, they both run. They both are going to collide. Taker ducks down, lets Sting fly over. He knows Sting likes the Stinger splash, but Taker, he's a phenom. He's a legend. He knows. He's seen this. Taker gets the first upper hand on Sting. Goes over to Sting, starts working him in the corner. The best pure striker in pro wrestling. Gives him the good old work. Gives him the punches. Starts to really assert his dominance over Sting. The referee counting him in the corner. 1, 2, 3. Taker immediately whips back, looks at the referee with his intimidating eyes as if back off, I got this. And now we set the tone for the matchup. Taker has never been in the matchup with Sting here, but keep in mind, when he broke in WCW way back in the late 80s and early 90s, it was Sting's company at that point. He was the next star. So he's been waiting for this long to face off against the icon and recognizes this is my yard. I am not only the conscience of the WWE, I am the conscience of professional wrestling. Sting is the icon. He knows he's the baby face of the matchup, starts to build back a little momentum, gets his comeback going. Taker, caught off guard by Sting, hits a Stinger splash. Taker comes back up, moves to another corner, hits another Stinger splash, and then finally a third Stinger splash. He goes for the pin. Taker kicks out at 1. Taker's not going to go down that easy. Taker's not going down that easy. The matchup progresses. We see Sting get taken out of the ring by Taker. Taker goes for the air dead man. He hits it. He connects. Everything's going well for Taker. It's proven right. They go back into the ring. Taker, choke slam to Sting. Goes for a pin. 1, 2. Sting kicks out. Taker says, okay, fine. He knows it's not going to be an easy matchup. He's not going to go down. So he puts him in the Hell's Gate. Taker, with the Hell's Gate on, tries to make Sting pass out, but Sting, again, resilient as ever, slides over to the side, grabs the rope break. Taker says, okay, I get it. You're one of the best. They keep going. Taker gets the shoulder, goes for old school, hits old school. Sting working the shoulder, really feeling it. Later in the matchup, this comes back up because he tries to hit the Scorpion Death Drop, but his shoulders hurt. It's not the same. He tries to go for his finish, the submission. Can't hold it. His shoulder's not up. It's hurting still. Over time, Taker is decimating that shoulder. Little by little, really working it. Until finally, Sting hits the Stinger Death Drop. Goes for the pin. Except this is when The Undertaker gets him in the Hell's Gate. Sting is decimated. I mean, the paint is all off of his face. This matchup is going for like 25 minutes, by the way. I think it's a sweet spot for a lot of these iconic matches. So keep in mind, there's a lot of stuff I'm not telling you, but these are like the main plot points. Sting is finally in the Hell's Gate. And just as he's beginning to fight off The Undertaker, he's fighting off The Undertaker. He just can't keep up with him. He starts to fade. He starts to pass out a little bit. He's realizing I can't do this anymore. Like I'm fighting for my life. And Taker squeezes even more because he recognizes this is it. This is the last man I have to beat. Taker has beaten the likes of Triple H, The Rock, Austin. He's beaten John Cena. He's beaten Hulk Hogan. He's beaten all these legends. He has never beaten Sting. And he's now moments away from Sting tapping out or passing out to his Hell's Gate. Sting then finds it within himself to never give up, leans up, grabs The Undertaker in a position, still in the Hell's Gate, but leans him on his shoulders. So now it's either Taker has to let go of Hell's Gate or he's about to get pinned. It's one, it's two, and just as Taker is about to let go of the Hell's Gate, the referee hits three. The winner, Sting, beats The Undertaker. And The Undertaker is left speechless on the mat. Sting passed out, essentially, at the last second of that pinfall. Sting passed out, but The Undertaker is now on his back looking up thinking, wow, I just lost to Sting. And there's a moment there where he sits up and he's just looking at Sting, a passed out Sting. And there's a moment in the audience where it's quiet and they're thinking what's going to happen, because Taker was displaying a lot of heelish tendencies during this matchup. And he goes over to Sting. He lifts up Sting and everyone's thinking, oh my God, what is he going to do? Sting coming to, looks at Taker. Taker looks at the crowd, looks at Sting, and he shakes his hand in a moment of respect and recognizes that Sting is always going to be the icon. The Undertaker is always going to be the phenom. And he was moments away from making history by beating Sting. But he realizes, you know what? You were the better man that night. And he shakes Sting's hand. WWE may have won the evening from a record of 7-6. WWE wins. But Sting pins The Undertaker in a moment that I think everybody would remember. And that's how I would book the super event TNA versus WWE, our Invasion pay-per-view. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like, comment down below. What are some of your dream matches for TNA versus WWE? What was your favorite matchup on this card? As well as make sure you subscribe to the channel and keep up to date with all things pro wrestling, and make sure you subscribe so you can also be a part of the stream. You can't be a part of the chat if you're not subscribed. Again, I want to thank you guys for joining us in today's video talking about TNA versus WWE in this historic super event. Let me know down below what was your favorite matchup on my card, and what is your dream TNA versus WWE event. As always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with all things pro wrestling. And of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thanking you for joining us here today. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.